Well, my name is Kim Karwal. I work with Easter Seals, Iowa. Specifically, I work with the Assistive Technology Center and the Rural Solutions Program. So I serve statewide, so in all 99 counties. Is everyone here from within the Des Moines metro area and surrounding counties? Waterloo, Davenport, Southeast Iowa. Excellent. Well, just so you know, our Assistive Technology Center is statewide. So all of you are eligible to be borrowers and or receive demonstration on any of our devices. How many of you are familiar with Easter seals in general? Kind of, I saw some kind of, tiny bit. So Easter Seals Iowa is an affiliate of the National Easter Seals organizations. In Iowa, we have over 14 program lines to support individuals with disabilities of all ages. We have everything from a child development center to an adult rehabilitation program, employability, all the way to camp and respite services. If you want additional information on our broader services, there is a booth downstairs, and there's all sorts of handouts and great stuff that are occurring. So one thing beyond supporting individuals with disabilities, as our mission states, we strive to support individuals with disabilities, their family members, so that they can live, learn, work, and play in the communities. So part of that is the caregiver. We do have opportunities for you as parents, as caregivers. I am going to pull out this handout and just speak of it briefly, and if you want more information, please do ask after the session or at the end of the session. We partnered with Iowa State Extension to offer powerful tools for caregivers. This is a 6-week session. It meets once a week for 2 hours for 6 consecutive weeks. The purpose of this program is to support the caregiver of children with special health and behavioral needs, to ensure that they receive the networking, the resources, and the peer support that are well deserved, as well as build off of those already developed tools that you have created. So there's sessions based upon communication, sessions based upon self-care, all sorts of great stuff. So we have scheduled 2 different opportunities for this. It is occurring in the Des Moines metro area. For those of you from other outlying areas across the state, powerful tools for caregivers exist within the Iowa State Extension offices. So if you are interested and you aren't able to make it to ours, please do let me know, and I will get you in touch with your local Iowa State Extension office and Powerful Tools for Caregivers trainers. So you are attending our health and wellness session. So a broad area of support for individuals with disabilities is ensuring their health and wellness. And I know this tends to be pummeled at people multiple times. What exactly is health and wellness? In reality, it's something different to each individual person. For some individuals, the health and wellness may depend upon their ability to communicate. For some, their ability to eat independently, and for others, it may be their ability to bench press 400 pounds. It really is a huge spectrum of abilities and a huge spectrum of realities. Our Assistive Technology Center does purpose to support individuals throughout the entire spectrum of their goals. We do this through 3 distinct service lines. We have a demonstration center at Camp Sunnyside. Our demonstration center has a barrier-free kitchen for demo, a toilet with various styles of grab bars, a bathtub with a lift, and a barrier-free shower. This area is wonderful if you are looking to enhance accessibility within your home or environment, and you want to see what the realities are when we talk about a dropped countertop or a talking microwave or an automatic shut-off stove, or what does a 5-foot by 5-foot shower really look like. You can set up an appointment, come and tour the demo center free of charge. We're not going to ask for anything from you, and get a better understanding of kind of those realities. Of course, if you're from Southeast Iowa or Davenport, it's a little bit difficult to get all the way to Des Moines. Thus, we purpose to have some videos available for you on our YouTube channel that you can see some of these areas without having to come all the way to Camp Sunnyside. We have a durable medical equipment loan program, which runs solely off of donated durable medical equipment. We host equipment drives in various areas throughout the state. Last fall, we had one in Washington, Iowa. This summer, we have one up in Sioux City. For one, to get all that unused durable medical equipment so that we can sanitize, refurbish, and get it to individuals in need. And for two, to make those specific communities aware of our services so that if they need to access these services, they know who to call. We have everything from manual wheelchairs, power wheelchairs, lift chairs, walkers, canes, crutches, reachers, over-the-bed tables, all sorts of stuff. But keep in mind that it runs off of donated durable medical equipment so that if you do have a need, we may or may not have the appropriate device to meet that need. For example, if an individual needs a manual wheelchair, we may or may not have that appropriate size, width, depth for their specific measurements. We work with the healthcare provider on our application. There, on the back of the durable medical equipment loan application, there is a section for the healthcare provider to fill out to ensure that we meet specific and appropriate measurements, weight, size for that device for that individual to loan. This program is associated with a nominal fee, but it is a one-time fee. I remember the manual wheelchair off the top of my head. For others, I will have to glance at the page. So for a manual wheelchair, an individual can check that out for a one-time fee of $50 and use it as long as they need it. Times that this is a great resource, perhaps insurance supported the individual in purchasing a power wheelchair, and they deemed that it would not be appropriate for the manual wheelchair to be utilized in the home, but that manual wheelchair would be really helpful for going to the state fair with grandma and grandpa, or going to the mall with friends that don't have an accessible van. That's a great opportunity to access the services from the AT Center. Our third piece is kind of what you're looking at on the tables in front of you. We have our lending library of devices. We have well over 1,000 devices that are available for a 30-day trial period loan. The purpose of this lending library is for individuals to try something out prior to them purchasing it. We know on average, it takes up to 7 pieces of assistive technology to determine what is appropriate for that individual in the environment that it's going to be used in. Meaning one piece of assistive technology may not be the answer right off the bat, but if you give it a good trial run and you determine what's working and what's not working, it helps to take that next step in determining what else could be utilized. Assistive technology on itself can range from no tech to high tech. And by no tech, I mean changing the way a task is performed rather than having a device to support that task. High tech would be those computers, communication devices, all that other high tech devices that you want to use, tablets, cell phones, things like that. We do represent that entire spectrum of things, and we realize that with individuals, they would prefer to just adjust a task to be able to perform it. And at times that can be a solution, so we do have to get creative every once in a while and find the appropriate referrals when that time does come. Our Assistive Technology Center is not the answer for you. It's going to be a support for you to reach the end goal, and that's what you're trying to do. And if it is health and wellness, you're not gonna walk out of the AT Center and have your answers right there in your hands. But you may have a better idea and better tools to help you get there. I have a lot of folks that say, well, tell me what's gonna work. Give me the answer, give me the solution. And I do have to remind them this isn't the solution. This is just a support along the road of decisions and finding how to reach that goal. So I had mentioned that we were gonna talk a little bit about some of the national standards for health and wellness, some of the reasons why we purpose to support individuals with disabilities. So I wrote up some statistics right here that I like to touch on. So according to the Journal of American Medicine, and these are national health trends across the United States, approximately 17% or 12.7 million of children and adolescents aged 2 to 19 years old are diagnosed with obesity. In Iowa alone, according to the Iowa Department of Public Health, and this is data from 2014, adults with individuals with disabilities versus individuals without disabilities with their health trends. So some I outlined here. So 33% would be individuals with disabilities versus 6% of individuals without report fair to poor health within the last month. 19% of individuals with disabilities versus 1% of individuals without report at least one day in the last 30 when physical health was not good. 42% of individuals with disabilities versus 2% report high blood pressure. 11% report coronary heart disease versus 3% of individuals without disabilities. 11% report heart attack versus 3% of individuals without disabilities. 8% of individuals with disabilities versus 1% of individuals without report stroke. And one that I wrote up there again is the 20% of individuals with disabilities versus 6% of individuals without are diagnosed with diabetes. 57% of individuals with disabilities versus 16% of individuals without report arthritis. And when we're looking at some of the trends of obesity, we notice that there is a higher occurrence of obesity within individuals with disabilities. The reality of all of these statistics is that there are additional barriers faced when it comes to health and wellness. And many of you being caregivers and parents probably recognize these on a daily basis. There's mobility issues. There's fear of needles, resistance to different types of information. How many of you have ever gone to a doctor and the way the doctor talked, the language used, the time spent was a frustration? Anyone? So there's added frustrations in the future, added hesitancy to attending those. So there's different ways to approach this conversation of health and wellness. And as I said in the beginning, there's a huge spectrum of what health and wellness really is. So in the reality of the world we live in, we all have different goals. Same with those that we care for. There's different goals. There are some goals that can be arched from one person to the next, and those might be healthy eating, getting some type of exercise, some type of cardiovascular exercise, getting some kind of activity that you enjoy and doing it. So that's what I tried to do with the devices that I brought with me today. So you all have devices on your table. So instead of me continually talking this entire time, I want you to reach out and grab and to look at some of those devices. And then I want each person to pick one. One that speaks to them, one that they think is really cool, or one that they have no idea what it would be used for or how it could possibly be used. This is a sensory disc. We have a huge set of different styles of sensory discs. It goes on the floor. You step on it. They have different textures on them, different things. You can either use it on your shoe or with your socks on, and you can step on it. So it can encourage various things. So it can be to recognize colors, which is a game that I have played with these because they're all different colors. It can be just a balance tool. So stepping on something that's not exactly, level ground and learning to balance. And that encouragement to touch and move around on something that has a different style texture and it has a kind of a cool covering to it as well. Kind of. So sometimes when we purchase devices in the AT Center, well, always, I try them out before I actually put them in the inventory. For one, to make sure they're safe. For two, to make sure that they're accurate in what the salesman tells me they're gonna do. And for three, to see if I like it. This is one I purchased for myself immediately after having seen it. This is a car diffuser for essential oils. So I will never recommend to someone to utilize essential oils without talking to your healthcare provider to ensure that it's safe and there's no allergies or adverse sensitivities to those oils, But we do have different types of diffusers to support individuals if this happens to be the task that they're looking into. These are really great. It's an interchangeable talking picture frame, so you can change the picture on the front and record a different message in there. I love using these when an individual perhaps is able to communicate, but occasionally their language is not able to be understood by people who are not familiar with their situation. So there can be a few pre-recorded messages, a few things such as, I need to use the restroom. So if having that in your pocket, in your bag, in your purse, works great to just pull it out and to hit that button. This is the My Plate. Is anyone familiar with My Plate? This is the new food pyramid. So this talks about the way that meals should be portioned in order so you get the appropriate amount of each food group at a meal. What's really cool is a lot of Hy-Vees have just the paper version of this, that if you set up an appointment with the Hy-Vee dietitian, they can get you just the paper version. Though we do have the plastic ones available to be borrowed. We do have various communication devices. We don't do the really high-tech ones that would need a speech pathologist referral for. We have about a step below that where there might just be some different things to see if pushing a button to state a message would be appropriate in that situation. I like that one because it comes just with a whole bunch of different options. The one thing that I don't like about that one is there's really no divide between the various options. I learned that when I set my purse on it in the very far back of my vehicle one day, and it talked every time I went over a bump, and it talked like different messages. It's a great device to try out, but it will not be appropriate for every situation, which is one of the reasons why we purchased it. You can go ahead and pull it. Well, is it okay with everyone? It's kind of a loud noise. Do it quick. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, that's exactly what it does. So it is a talking pedometer. We have different devices so you can track distance moved, encourage steps. One reason why I love pedometers is because sometimes people are motivated by goals, by saying, oh, I walked 47 steps today, tomorrow I'm gonna walk 100. And sometimes it is just starting with those small scale goals. And with a talking pedometer, it says it out loud. It's fantastic. And I really do like the fact that it has that panic button on it. That one does come out a little bit easier than some others, but I always look for, if I'm gonna encourage someone to go walking out on their own, I want to encourage them to have safety along with that goal. It's a laundry bag. Occasionally individuals, again, motivated by goals, doing their own laundry, taking something down the stairs. One of the biggest reasons individuals get injured is because of falls in the home. So being able to talk about, okay, well, we're gonna set up all these goals for independent living, how, again, are we gonna encourage safety with that? I love those kinds of mesh bags because you can just hook them around another tub and throw your dirty clothes in there. You can pick a size depending on the abilities of that individual. If they're have a tendency to not be able to lift heavy things, you can pick a smaller bag. So when it's full, but it's still not too heavy. Zip it up, pick it up, throw it down the stairs. So it's at the bottom of the stairs waiting for you when you get down there and after you've traveled down there safely. Pick that entire bag up, put it in the washer, pull it out of the washer, put it in the dryer. It might increase wrinkles, but it decreases the act of having to reach down and pull everything out one at a time and makes it just a little bit more accessible. Yeah, it could be used to help with support if she grabs it. That specific design was made to be mounted for the bed. So it would be put around the base of the bed, and then the ladder portions would come up to the individual laying in the bed so that they could assist themselves in sitting up or laying back down, to just add a little bit more independence for that, especially if the home is, there's an inability to put in something like a trapeze over the bed or other things in that area. I've also seen individuals use it for stretching. So they'll actually put their toe in the end red loop and they'll be able to use the other handles to slowly stretch their leg out while sitting in the floor or sitting in a chair with their leg propped up. So I've seen it used in a variety of ways. One reason I do my presentations like this is I only have one mind, and the more I look at a device, the more I get stuck in this is what it does and this is all it can do. And so when I have an opportunity to hear other people and how they might use something, It just helps me with all those other ideas. So there was a variety of other tools on each table that weren't picked. So I'll just go through and demonstrate each of those. We have a lot of gardening and recreation opportunities with the Assistive Technology Center. So this is just a garden trowel. As I said, a lot of individuals may experience arthritis. That was a design for this. So it has more of the pistol grip handle and it has the support around the forearm. So when you're digging, it takes a lot of that discomfort and torque in your wrist and makes it just a little bit more stable with using your forearm. Yeah, I can do that one next. Does anyone know what this is? Almost. It's a button hook. So I don't have a button shirt on today, but it would slide through the hole on a button-up shirt, hook around the button of another shirt, and pull it all the way through. So you don't have to fidget and manipulate with your tiny fingers. So will everyone hold up the silverware that's on their table? You might not have some. There's just some. We have a huge variety of silverware. So the one I'm holding is the redware dining set. That bowl is actually designed with a little curvature for it. So when an individual is eating, they can slide the food up against that curved side so it stays on the spoon to get to the mouth. Some of the silverware is weighted. That one specifically is not only a coated spoon, but has an adjustable weight if you screw off the end of the handle. That next one is a built-up grip with a 90-degree spoon so that you don't have to turn your wrist in towards yourself. The spoon is already turned in. The next one back there, that's a weighted spoon with an extremely normalized appearance. And good point. So that next one is also weighted with a built-up grip. So weighted silverware can be a support in a variety of situations. One that I see quite often is if an individual experiences any kind of tremor or shake, it can add just a little bit of weight to hold that down. It can also help an individual if they have a tendency to lift things really quickly, just to add a little bit more weight and to have a little bit more of a sensory input to the actual act of eating. We have a whole nother type of silverware for demonstration that's called liftware, and it actually automatically adjusts for tremors when you lift it. It has a little bit different of a handle though. Okay, what else did we miss over here? Yes, what does that one say? It does. Water. You fill it up with water. So that bottle is the HydraCoach to encourage individuals to drink an appropriate amount of water. It actually tracks the amount of water that you drink. I don't loan that one out. It's for demonstration purposes only, simply because it would be very difficult to fully sanitize in between uses. But it is a cool device, especially if you're talking about accessibility, how to ensure an individual always has access to an adequate amount of water. So not flavored, sugared water, but water. All right, so on a couple of the tables were these little fidgets. One were the numbers with just a fidget, and the other are the letters. So the letters can actually be manipulated with the magnet pen. And so you can outline the letters. And we have the whole alphabet set. And the numbers can be done with just your finger. And so you can trace all the numbers. We have an enormous amount of just sensory devices aimed at fidgets, aimed at education, aimed at enhancing independence and those fine motor skills that come along with those supports. I don't bring a ton of them because we have so many, and I always say they're all listed on the website, and if you want to get your hands on them, come into the AT Center. So did I miss anything else on your table here? Okay, and this one? What about over here? Oh yeah, you have a few over here. So this is a shoehorn. So to help an individual put their shoes on, it actually has an extendable length to it so they can do it from a standing position or from a seated position. We have a huge variety of different types of handles, some that have a little bit of a spring action to them, so there's a little bit more give and pull. A lot of devices aimed to support individuals with their independence, with dressing, with eating, and things like that. These are all plate guards. So that same concept that I mentioned with the redware dining set, to add a little bit to the side of the plate so that when you're using the spoon, you can push it up against the side of the plate and the food will stay on the spoon. Let's see, we had a few here, don't we? Okay, so the little pendant for posture, we have a lot of tools that sync with smartphone devices, such as the Fitbit as well. So the Fitbit is a really cool device. How many of you have heard of a Fitbit at this point in time? A lot more than a few years ago. How many of you have a Fitbit? My favorite function of the Fitbit is its sleep tracking. So the Fitbit not only tracks the distance walked in steps, it also tracks it in distance. You can sync it with another calorie counter, so you can track the food that you ate, and it will adjust for the exercise you did with the Fitbit, so it'll give you more calories throughout the day if you burned off that many calories. And then at night you can set it to a sleep mode, and it measures the movement during the night. So it'll give you this little graph of when you moved and when you got up and when it says you were awake or when it says you were restless. And it's a really, really great tool. So it's a great tool for a variety of reasons. If you have a goal to walk more, if your doctor has told you to walk less, and if you really want to know why you're so tired in the morning, is it because you're really restless at night? We have a variety of medication managers. I think there was one more medication manager, the little yellow box on your table, of all shapes and sizes. So many, many different versions, so individuals can become independent with their own medication. Obviously, for health and wellness, taking your medication at the appropriate time prescribed by your healthcare provider and the appropriate amount is fantastic to support your health and wellness goals. But having the independence to do it yourself is a great resource and a great task for just that self-concept too. This is just an exercise band that adjusts in length and tension to help with different things like muscle growth or stretching those muscles. We have a few different versions of this. Though again, when it comes to the more higher levels of exercise, I do ask that you can connect with a healthcare provider to ensure you're doing the appropriate moves according to them. I'm not really a personal trainer, so I don't know all of those things. So back here, how many did we miss? Just these two? All right, I'll move back up here. So on that same note, these are weightlifting hooks. So they go around the wrist, and they're used for individuals that lift great big barbells and weights and all that kind of stuff, so it reduces the strain on their hand. They're also really great if you're carrying a bucket. They're also really great for holding a kayak paddle, so that you can paddle if you have limited grip in your hands. So they can be used in a variety of ways. People always kind of giggle when I get them out because they're like, I'm not lifting weights. No. But a lot of times with farmers, when it comes to grabbing a bucket, perhaps after experiencing a stroke or something like that, these are very helpful because it no longer means that they have to depend solely on their fingers. This last piece up here is just a HoMedic sound machine. So we do purpose to have things for sensory, for sound. We talked about scent earlier. So devices to help individuals with calming, redirection, situations like that. Do I have any questions on those devices right now? None? Okay, good. I am going to pass one of these out per group. I can give you too. Yes, because I serve statewide, I'm not always continually available on site. So I do encourage you to contact me to make an appointment for us to find a time to connect. So the booklet I handed out to you is a newly developed booklet. It was actually just printed a couple weeks ago. So although this booklet was developed for individuals that experience brain injury, as you page through, you can see that it's organized by task. Many tasks will overlap from one person to another, regardless of their specific diagnoses. So I did want to draw your attention to page 30. one of the first things individuals typically ask me about are how to search for an appropriate app or apps to support one task versus another. At one point in time, I did try to compile a list of apps along with their price and everything like that. That was successful for about 3 days, and then they were all outdated. So instead of utilizing those kinds of things, I utilize this specific avenue. So how do you search for an app and how do you judge the app? So this section, there's an app for that. So page 30 talks about the Android versus an iPhone example. 31 talks about the search box. And 32 goes into picking a keyword. And keywords are important. Making sure that you're concise on things. So searching for apps that are communication devices, health and wellness supports. And then if you go to page 8, we included a few devices or a few apps specifically in this booklet that have a tendency to not change. They're pretty consistent apps across the board. So looking down that list of tasks, so organization. One thing with health and wellness, a complaint we hear often, or the reason why people aren't really paying attention to their health and wellness, is they don't have time. So making that time for yourself throughout the day. This is for individuals with disabilities, this is for caregivers, this is for everyone. Making sure you schedule for it, and apps can be very helpful for that. So scheduling yourself 10 minutes the night before to pack a lunch, or 5 minutes the morning to do anything, like taking 5 minutes to yourself. The sharing a location, the where am I, when you're coordinating schedules to allow individuals more freedom and more individual support, independence in general, knowing location and everything like that is hugely important. And then down at the bottom, you see that emergency organizer. That is a great app for helping with emergency situations. Then on page 24, yes, they're yours. On page 24, you see a variety of other tasks. So breathing exercises. Why is breathing so important? Well, when we think about the spectrum of individuals with disabilities, abilities is a big thing. Some individuals may not have the ability to get up and do push-ups. Some people really need to focus on their breathing as their main source of cardiovascular activity. So having apps to support those breathing techniques are important, including the muscle relaxation, the meditation. And down there you see that journaling app. The journaling app is one that's hugely supportive, especially for memory and setting goals and reaching goals. So using the journaling app to perhaps keep track of how many steps you walked or how far you went is really, really wonderful. When it comes to working with individuals with disabilities, really the main reason we focus on those obesity rates is because of all the secondary conditions that can be associated with that. Like I said, the cardiovascular disease, the heart attack, diabetes, things like that. To address those obesity rates and to encourage more fitness and wellness in an individual's life, so you don't necessarily need to focus on building strength. It could be that weight loss piece and learning a healthier lifestyle just in general, having it be an open door for learning about and trying new foods. One great resource that's also downstairs is Look, Cook, and Eat. So learning about different opportunities for independence in the kitchen and how to look at your own meals. It is a real concern to still be able to maintain control over a situation and to still be able to encourage different opportunities for their health and wellness. Specifically for your situation, I would say that you should talk to the healthcare provider first and foremost to make sure that anything you do isn't detrimental to the health. And since I don't know the individual specifically or their specific abilities, I really don't know, what other resources we could potentially get in there, but there's always opportunity for referral and for additional supports. So this is HoMedic's. I've had pretty good support. This one's gotten thrown and all sorts of fun stuff. So it's not only has batteries, but it also plugs into the wall. I have not yet had it overheat, but it does have a timer on it. Another thing is YouTube. There's specific songs you can download. There's white noise apps that you can just download and stream through a variety of different avenues. So your computer, your smartphone, your tablet, even if you have something like Chromecast, you can stream it through the TV too. So we have items of a huge variety. We have things from, say, more of that fidget spectrum. So things to touch, things to squish, things to squeeze. Those can be utilized in situations where perhaps they do become overstimulated and they need to refocus that direction on something else. We also have sensory items like there are these hand mitts that have different textures on them for more of that self-rub or that brushing technique. And they're not really rough textures. Some of them are more like a loofah sponge and things like that. We also have different games where you match texture to texture. So it's more of a sensory game, and they're just little blocks with like a sandpaper or a wool or a very soft texture on them, and then you match those two together based upon their texture. We have a lot of different types of games and flashcards with a lot of touch. And as I said, we have the sound, so a sensory sound device. We also have the Be Calm audio sedation system, which is the combination of a small media player paired with noise canceling headphones, and they play just a very specific type of music. It was actually created by a dentist who noticed that children became very overstimulated even when walking into the dentist's office due to the sound of the drill alone. And so his purpose was to override that sound to reduce that sensitivity. So that's why he developed that system, though we do have a lot of different types of noise canceling headphones. As I said, we have like the diffusers. We also have a game that's an aroma land game that is really fun if you're trying to figure out what scents people really don't like and what scents they prefer, especially if you're trying to create your environment to be more suitable for them. If someone smells something they don't like all day long and they're not able to verbally tell you that smells horrible, they may be overstimulated, they may act out in different ways, and they may experience different things, and you're not sure why. So it's just one of those supports to try and figure out maybe a little bit more of how the environment plays a role in behavior too. And then we have a lot of sight sensory devices. We have a game that has different types of flashcards on it that show facial expressions. Some are just drawn, others are pictures of real people, and it can be played as a game or just as a learning tool to learn different ways that facial expressions display behaviors or moods, or what is this person feeling right now, things like that. We do have several different types of weighted blankets as well as weighted vests. When it comes to the weighted items, I ask that you be coordinated with an OT or PT first and foremost to ensure that it's used appropriately. We try very diligently to ensure that we're meeting all those expectations of the other individuals that are supporting you, whether it be your school AEAs, your PTs, your OTs, speech language pathologists, all of those. But we ask specifically because we want to ensure it's used according to their weighted plan. So what time of day they're using it, how long to keep it on, where to keep it on at, and specific weight for that individual's body. If someone wears a weighted vest and it's too heavy for that specific individual and they wear it continuously, it could impact their growth, and that is not something we want. I would say first talk to the teachers and the referrals to the AEAs to make sure that they do the appropriate assessment. They do it according to the set schematic so that they can do that assessment for your student. And if it is deemed appropriate for them to have a different type of chair cushion to sit on, we have some different fidget cushions that can be sat on, and then lap pads that are weighted. We have one that's shaped like a big turtle, which is one of my favorites. We also have some different like vibrating, so again, another turtle, but this one vibrates when you hug it. So different things like that, but the AEA should be able to support you best through that so that we can make sure that it's used according to all the rules and regulations in specific situation in school. We've had some people make kind of at-home versions of the weighted lap pads and things too, so we have those that you can look at and compare and touch and see, what might work. What's really nice is to bring the student in or the child in and just let them kind of sit there and be like, nope, and as they push it off onto the floor. Though that isn't always gonna be the realities once you move it to a different environment. As many of you probably well know, children act differently when they're at school versus when they're at home or when they're at summer camp. There's different behaviors that do arise. So using it in the environment in which it's going to be implemented in the future is huge when it comes to AT. So in the department where I work, we have over 40 years worth of expertise with my team members. So depending on the area of the state or the town that you're in, we can definitely come up with a list of potential referrals that you may want to explore. One thing I handed out, and I have a few other, we have these booklets. They're just practical guide to universal home design. These are really helpful, especially when talking to contractors to talk about all the requirements, and it's set up as a checklist. So if you want to grab one of these, I can give you some. I do have a few with me here today. Otherwise, there's a downloadable version available on our website on the AT Center page. These are helpful because you can help reiterate that. Though asking for multiple bids on things and talking to multiple people is always going to be the best option. Because we serve statewide, we run into a lot of situations where, you know, sometimes there's really wonderful champions in some areas of the state, and we just need to figure out who those are in other areas of the state. There's a lot of qualified personnel across the state, a lot of resources that are used. There's also a lot of forums where individuals can share their personal experiences with those specific vendors. Those are the ones I tend to refer to most heavily. As a professional, I do work with a lot of individuals, and they do keep their professional attitude with me. So I'm not a consumer of the device, so I don't know the realities as a consumer on occasion. So in order to be fully respectful to the vendor, I will give you a list of who all vends the devices statewide or who is a dealer of those specific devices. Though if you want more specific information from a consumer's point of view, there are forums and there are referrals that we can do for that too. So there's still a list. Iowa Compass website does have a list of many possible resources statewide. So it's a very organized website that has a lot of those specific items. In regards to Iowa Compass, a program that they have, this might even be news to you, is the Used Equipment Referral Program. So this Used Equipment Referral Program as of Monday will be housed at Easter Seals, Iowa. So this is kind of a Craigslist for durable medical equipment. If you're trying to sell something that's more of a specialized item and you want to get some funds for that, so a specific type of wheelchair, you can list it on this Used Equipment Referral website. And individuals that are interested in purchasing can contact you through that website. So as of Monday, our website will be up and running and active for posts and ready to go. Service, yes. So if you Google Easter Seals Iowa Ewers, it should pop up. And then the Iowa Compass Ewers now has a redirect to take you to our webpage as well. We have the weekend respite happening 2 weekends out of a month, where the parents can drop the individual off so that they can receive respite for that full weekend. Then in the summertime, we have week-long camps. So they stay throughout the entire week. We have awesome big lodges for them to sleep in that are they're really cool. And they're so much better than our old ones, though the old ones were rustic. These are cool. Yeah, I think that the staff are they're pretty keen on knowing when a parent needs to maybe walk away. And they're wonderful at those interventions too. But they also have supported day camp and some bridge camp too, which just is 1 day. A meeting in the AT Center, that would typically take about an hour. So usually individuals can find care or find respite individually for that hour that we meet. If it is a problem that you can't find, there's really no problem in multiple people coming into the AT Center and trying out devices.